More and more car buyers are deciding to go back a few years older because they're tired of EVs. They don't want hybrids. They're sick of these turbo 3s and all of these engines that are failing these days we're hearing in the last couple of years. I've got a mega compilation of vehicles that are 2 years, 5 years, 10 years old. Some of the most reliable vehicles you can find just about anywhere. So if you're tired of these new vehicles and you're just looking for something reliable, long-lasting, of cars, SUVs, vans, luxury vehicles, you name it from top to bottom.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
Crossovers. So they take SUVs and they create a little bit of a more dynamic, sporty look. Let's get into some of the more reliable crossovers available on the market since every manufacturer makes them. VAG Special right here, or I mean VAG, so that's a Volkswagen Audi group right here. Yes, this is a great looking little vehicle, and actually it's got a pretty solid dependability rating. As a matter of fact, Consumers Report says it's average, and that's ranking it across the board with every mid-size or smaller subcompact SUV. So it's doing quite well considering it's a luxury vehicle and often they aren't as reliable. And what we have here is this beautiful little unit wrapped in blue. Well, it's not actually a wrapped factory color. It does have the Audi projector lamps there and the big mouth grille, and it's quattro, so it gives you the infamous all-wheel drive system right there. Of course, you do have some beautiful details there and laser cut type rims. And naturally, you see this nice detail on the rocker panels here, circle around, and I love that line here. Look at that special little detail that goes right there. Very cool. You've got that brushed chrome look there, and beautiful LED taillights. Again, quattro, lots of sensors everywhere, and it's the Q3. Beautiful. Of course, you do have that stout little back end. It is a stout, sporty little SUV or crossover. Sits up quite high, so it's going to give you a bit of a rougher ride. And the interior is probably one of the best in this whole class of subcompact SUVs. Lots of glass on top and this beautiful little roof rack. Look at that little shark fin there too. Beautiful vehicles. Yes, they come equipped with an 8-speed automatic transmission. Sometimes hard shifting, but they're great. They're very more geared towards the sporting intent. Of course, all-wheel drive system. Turbocharged 4-cylinder makes about 228 horsepower, and 0 to 60 in about 6.5 seconds. Makes it a very spirited drive. It's a great vehicle, packed with lots of features, and clearly one of the best vehicles with a decent reliability record in the luxury car small segment if you're looking for a vehicle and a deal. And there's the next one that's actually quite reliable, and one of those picks that I would throw out there for a lot of people looking for one of the best sporting, luxurious, and reliability perspectives in the compact or subcompact SUV segment. This is it. This is one of the greater ones just because it handles like it's on rails. It drives like a sports car, but clearly you have a little more practicality with the SUV configuration. But let's look at it. Yeah, you have the beautiful headlights, and these are the LED headlights right there by BMW. As you can tell, it is a BMW, and they do have the larger style grills on this car. And obviously, as we circle around, you have nice little details there and a great profile in the front. It looks very bullnose and strong like a fist. Look at that. Boom. Boom. Beautiful wheels, obviously laser cut style. Nice little rocker, color rocker painted here. And of course, we have easy access in there, one touch to get in. Beautiful roof racks to haul your dumpster projects. And of course, you have lots of glass on top to give you lots of illumination inside there. So there's lots of bright white, and it's just a great vehicle all the way around. You have LED tail lights here. And look, 1, 2, beautiful tailpipes. As you can see, they're legitimate. They're real deal. A lot of vehicles now forego a lot of that just for that cheap facade. But as mentioned, this is the BMW X1, and this one's the xDrive 28i. What's the interior like? Well, BMW does what BMW does. The materials are always high quality, well wearing. The iDrive system's one of the best as they're the pioneer in the business, and everything just works as it should. The ergonomics are great, and it's a comfortable vehicle. Now we have to mention, this has the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine, pops out about 228 horsepower, makes it peppy, 0 to 60 in about 6.5 seconds. And as I said, it handles well, it brakes well. I actually had an X2, which is its sport compact, or the smaller shrunken version of the same chassis and engine configuration. I had it for a summer on loan last year, and I absolutely loved it. It drives well, it's great, it's attractive, and it's just fun. So these are highly suggested to get if you're looking for an affordable subcompact styles SUV. Now this one here starts around $36,000 US, but they are just a lot of fun in a lot of simple ways. Not a lot to go wrong, as it's somewhere down on lowering on the pecking order for BMW means that there's just less to fail. You don't have air ride suspension like in the X5s or X6 vehicles. The X7s take everything to a new level. But if you want the practicality of an SUV, but you don't want all the failure modes, This is it. This engine too in the late model with the B48 is absolutely bulletproof as opposed to some of their older generational engines. Some of their older engines like the N20 or N47s, they had problem areas galore. This latest engine in the 4-cylinder format or its upscale 6-cylinder format as you step into the X3 is also a little gem. So the BMW X1, definitely for the win. Just can't deny the way these vehicles look. What is this exactly? Here, take a look. Well, look, you have these beautiful bubbly looking headlights, quite different, and it's an Acura. Of course, they do have these great grills, and of course, look, a nice detail there. More detail with the little fog lamps. More sharp sporting detail. This vehicle looks like a sports car. Look, go down the side. Beautiful gunmetal gray style painted rims. Beautiful by Acura. This one's an A-spec, and look, fold-away mirrors, but little LED strip on there. Love those handles, one-touch access. And look at down here. Look at the way it indents. Absolutely very gorgeous looking vehicle. And on top you have a large glass sunroof on top to illuminate all of the interior for all the happy little people that are riding around in this unit. Of course, circle around, and what we're looking at here, LEDs. RDX, that's right. Shh. It's an all-wheel drive. And look, beautiful tips. Not many vehicles these days use a real tip. Look at that. And look at that splitter along the bottom. Legitimate exhaust tips. A lot of vehicles, you're just not seeing it today. And look at that overhang at the back. Very good looking vehicle. Looks like a little space shuttle inside. Not quite up to the same stats as the Lexus and BMWs of the world, but it does very, very well. Thank you very much. And this gorgeous RDX comes at a base price of about $41,000. And the beauty is it has a very rapid and blistering acceleration for other vehicles when you compare it to others in its segment for base models. 4-cylinder turbocharged engine here makes a blistering 272 horsepower. Not Ferrari standards, but for an SUV on the subcompact size, this thing gets you around very briskly. And it does so with the Honda levels of reliability because let's not forget, Acura is essentially the big luxury brother of Honda. And how can you go wrong with a Honda or Lexus or any of those types of brands? So you literally will find one of the most reliable, fun, sporting, and attractive size SUVs on the market right here, the Acura RDX. Another very reliable and fun and frivolous type of vehicle in the subcompact or compact SUV market is this little hot rod here draped in white. What is this? Well, it's an Audi obviously, and it has this beautiful red calipers right there. Oh, look at that high gloss definition down at the very bottom for that rocker. And look, such fine detail. Look at the detailing on the fitment of the panels. It's absolutely sharp and impeccable. One-touch access there as well as there. And look at this big high gloss piano finishing on this mirror here. Of course, you have this beautiful LED. Down around here, typical in Audi format, you have these wonderful LED headlights and this nice little detailed cluster right here. Big bold grille right there, big mouth saying chomp, chomp, chomp. And this is the SQ5 right there. Beautiful vehicle. It actually has a great stance. Looks like it's clamping down and ready for action. Look down here, they have these beautiful sight lines all the way down here. And the interior is still one of the best in the business. Absolutely gorgeous seats, quilted stitching, and absolutely the best of the best right here in your front of your very eyes. Of course, right here you have this beautiful luggage rack to haul your roach-infested mattress to the dumpster. And here, of course, look at these beautiful LEDs, high gloss, nicely rounded, nicely contoured. Again, SQ5 here, and look at the quad tailpipes there, legit, straight in there. Very, very nice vehicle. More details. And just a great look all the way along. You have more sight lines on the hood there. This is a beautiful, beautiful SUV. And it doesn't just look good. It actually is very reliable. It gets a rating of about 4.6 out of 5 for customer satisfaction. And overall reliability is rated at 4.4 out of 5. That's right. This is much more reliable, even more so than the Q5, which is the base version of this. This is the one you want to have. Also, it has a 3-liter turbocharged engine, and it's a V6. And guess what? 350 horsepower, 0 to 60, 4.8 seconds. It's blisteringly quick, fun to drive, handles like it's on rails, and trust me when I say, because I know people that own these, they are superlatively comfortable. Great vehicles. The SQ5 by Audi, a must-see and a must-have. The next one right here in front of us, we have another cute little Lexus, ultra reliable. Everybody can recognize it's a Toyota product, Lexus known for the reliability, but this one's got something a little bit different going for it. It's a very small vehicle. It's essentially competing with the likes of the BMW X1 and of course many others in that really small subcompact territory. So let's look. Of course it's a Lexus. It's pretty standard fare to see that type of front end on it. You do have the big mouth grille, pretty traditional for Lexus brand, and of course we have those beautiful checkmark style headlights. Little details on the front, more detail on the front, and from the side the car looks very sporty and aggressive. It has that big chin going on there, big vents. Of course, beautiful laser cut wheels here, but they're smaller than most. Of course, we've got this particular strange looking detail around the fender well, and of course even more so at the back fender when you see it sort of juts up, squares off here, and it looks a little bit different than most. But there you go, that gives it away. You have nice metallic black paint here, one touch access to get in, and of course LC500. You can see the family heritage right there. Of course, I love this style. Look at this. This is really nice. You do have an oversized sunroof there, and all of the luxury amenities you could possibly ask for in a modern day luxury vehicle. Yes, it has these beautiful little taillights and all-wheel drive UX 250h. And that means this vehicle is a hybrid, primarily front-wheel drive, although you can get it in all-wheel drive as an upgrade. It's a hybrid, and it makes a combined output of 181 horsepower. That's right, 181 horsepower. 0 to 60, it's about 8.5 seconds, and the transmission is actually a CVT, which is probably one of the least sporty of the bunch I'm sharing with you. Clearly, Lexus leans more to the reliability versus the practical and performance side of it. But it's a beautiful vehicle, and starting around $35,000, $36,000 US, it represents a good bang for buck, and it's clearly not the biggest vehicle. It's not meant for large, sprawling families, but it's great for city dwellers, young professionals, or maybe people, smaller families just looking to get around and zip around. It's a great vehicle. Beautiful interior, as I'll show you right now. Quite sharp looking, still made of nice materials, but quite dressed down from some of the other models. So the Lexus UX 250h, clearly one you need to consider if you're looking for a smaller, affordable, and reliable small compact SUV. That everybody realizes this particular car brand or manufacturer is safe and known for reliability right here. What do we have here? Well, we're looking at a Lexus. Clearly, you know, the big Lexus brand, they have the big grille all over the place. They got the latest and greatest, all kinds of little detail along the front like that. Beautiful wheels, laser cut all the way around. And look, LC500 mirrors, one touch accent restyled. And look, glass on the roof. Yes, and you got those luggage racks. Beautiful. Beautiful updated style of rear LED taillights, and look at the new logo for Lexus. This one is an NX 450h, that's right, it's a hybrid. And it's got some great detail along the bottom edge there, and it's a great looking vehicle all the way around. What about the inside? Lexus is really stepping up the program with the infotainment systems, the luxury seating, and all the other soft touch surfaces. It's absolutely gorgeous and economical. Over here we have an NX 350 all-wheel drive, which is standard on a 350. You can also get a 250, and they all have different engines. So the base model is an NX 250, which essentially is Toyota's base Camry engine. It has that wonderful 2.5 liter engine, naturally aspirated, makes 203 horsepower, ultra reliable workhorse. Literally almost nothing can go wrong with it. Then as you step up into the 350, like we look right here, it's the 350 version. It's actually a turbocharged 2.4 liter, and it comes with the all-wheel drive system. Also very reliable in recent years. Lexus has really stepped up their game, and a lot of people say turbocharging is not reliable. Kind of depends who's building it, right? Levels of boost and the design go into a big part of how reliable a turbo engine can be, and the latest turbo engines from Lexus are certainly quite stout. They also feature an 8-speed automatic transmission, so they're easy and quiet, nice to live with. So Lexus NX of any variation, whether you want the base engine, turbo engine, hybrid versions, there's lots of options, and they're all very, very reliable. And here's another smaller SUV that you definitely have to give a look. If you're going to spend the money in the luxury car segment, you definitely want to give these a closer look. What we have here is a Porsche, obviously. What is it? Well, this one's a Macan, and this features a turbo 4-cylinder engine. Here we have a Macan S. It's a turbo 2.9 liter V6, both of them with 7-speed double clutch transmissions, makes them actually some of the best driving experiences in these smaller SUV segments. These drive almost as good as a 911, minus slightly lighter steering and slightly higher elevation. Driver's perspective is great. These vehicles are amazing. As you'll see, this vehicle, you have these big, beautiful tips here. Of course, it's a little simpler layout than you're looking at here with the S, where you have a set of quad tips over there. It's a beautiful vehicle, no matter which configuration. You do have a bigger set of wheels here, laser cut, nice little handles. Of course, there are lots of glass on the roof, and the interior makes you feel like you're in a jet fighter. Of course, more access there, and look at the big fold-away mirrors. Right there, big, bold, love these headlights. Kind of looks like the Porsche Boxster right there, very similar, but it's clearly part of the family of Porsche right there. You have the big, bold front grille here, and of course, as we cycle over to more of the base model, you can see it's a slightly simpler. You have closed-off vents here. But on the S, you have big cooling ducts right here for that big power plant. 375 horsepower there, and quite a bit less here. But either way, you can get lots of different forms from the base model to an S, GTS, as well as a middle model T, and then you just scale all your features down from there. Now you can get into these for $50,000 and change to get into the base model, and it just scales up. Almost the sky's the limit. But clearly, with some of the best performances available, these are a must look. Now, you must realize these also aren't phenomenally reliable. It's not quite in Lexus territory or Acura, but it's clearly closer to the BMW level, and this is considered average by most ratings. So it's an average level of reliability. You shouldn't expect too many issues with these. When they break, they're costly, so it's a Porsche, you will expect that, but they're not an extraordinarily unreliable vehicle. As a matter of fact, they are quite durable and quite reliable, and well known for their build quality. So you won't go too bad with one of these. A Porsche Macan, definitely for a win as well. But most people who are looking for daily drivers, for example, like this Toyota Camry right behind me, value other things. Cost of maintenance and servicing, low fuel costs, reliability. Those are all important practical senses. And that's why I want to share with you some of the best, most reliable everyday cars that you can imagine. Young drivers like them because they're stylish, they look sporty, and they're fun and quite economical to drive. And it's a Mitsubishi Lancer like this. You can get two different engine configurations. If we're not talking about the Evo, which is a hot version, the base models, you get a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, or you can get a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine. The one makes 148 horsepower and the larger engine makes 168 horsepower. Now you can either get the CVT transmission or you can get a manual stick shift in these cars, and they're a lot of fun. Great style Mitsu, cycle around. They've got great headlight design on there, some pretty cool wheels, little design. Some of this is aftermarket cheese. Great mirrors, look at the little lights on there. And of course you get this pronounced rocker panel. How about a basic little handle design? And the interior isn't exactly dressed up, not quite luxury car standards, but it's efficient and it works. Here you also have a sunroof, and some of these cars, they come with a wing, which makes them additionally sporty, and that's why a lot of the younger drivers like these cars, particularly in the Lancer by Mitsubishi. How about these rear taillights? Definitely looks aftermarket, but it's not. And these cars are actually relatively reliable. Sure, there's some nickel and dime issues. They don't sound like they're built like a tank. Yes, there's some rattles and clinks, but let's talk about a few of the minor issues. Rattles and squeaks throughout the chassis, front end ball joints. The clutch pedal sometimes makes noises. The sunroof sometimes squeaks or doesn't close entirely, and the handles have been known to come off. But generally speaking, nickel and dime issues. For the most part, the engine and the transmission are well made, and they're not overly stressed, so they last, and they last a long time. And when something breaks, it's cheap. So it's definitely a car I could recommend for a kid of mine or one of my parents. And the next little hot rod is this beauty behind us, and it's the Honda Civic. Great choice. Any generation is pretty much a winner. The only one that you want to avoid is that 1.5-liter turbo engine. There's problems with oil dilution. But other than that, most of them are great choices. But let's take a quick look here. Honda Civics have been around for a very, very long time, and it's easy to see why. They're easy to live with, they're fairly stylish, fairly attractive, and although many recent models come with CVT transmissions, you can also get a manual gearbox in many of these cars, which is a great win. Now, there's not much to go wrong with these cars, and when they do fail, it's a very, very cheap expense. For example, brakes, do a full brake job around here, take it to the shop, might cost you $400 or $500 all in. Oil changes, cheap. Nothing really breaks too much on these cars, and when they do, they aren't very expensive. But let's take a look. This generation is distinguishable by the taillights. As you see on here, there's the Honda. And looking down the side, you've got some great contours to it as well. And spinning, you'll see this wonderful little mirror. Very simple, basic, but effective. You've got a very cab-forward look to it because of the long windshield. It's very sloped and sleek. It looks very sporty and sharp from every single angle. Doesn't look too far disconnected even from a Lamborghini Gallardo if you look at it in the right light. This model here has aluminum wheels, and many of them do, but there are some base models that come with plastic hubcaps. Here you've got a sunroof and some great contours and accents and details. Basic handles, back and front. And looking around the front here, you'll see a very sleek headlights assortment. Besides the oil dilution problems in recent models, what else goes wrong? Well, not too terribly much other than the soy wiring that are known to have been eaten by rodents. Power switch for the windows. The release for the hood breaks sometimes at the handle, and the position sensor on the seat for the airbag and the passenger side sometimes has been known to be a little problematic. Other than a few of the nickel and dime issues, this car is extremely frugal, easy to live with, and ultra dependable, and you're good to go. Package in this car behind me, and that's the Honda Accord. Now, it's not every engine in the Accord, but the one specifically, which is the 2-liter turbo engine called the K20 C4. These 4-cylinder engines are direct injected, and when mated to a 10-speed automatic, they are truly an exciting drivetrain. 252 horsepower and about 273 pound-feet of torque make for a lively experience and for an engine that will likely outlast you and I. But let's take a quick look so you're not bored of this car. Here's a Honda Accord, but this one here is the Touring, and this has the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine, and it's mated to the automatic 10-speed. You don't want the CVT, you don't want the 1.5 because those are problematic and you have the oil dilution issues. However, this is the car you want. I mean, Honda now, they've got these great cool little headlights, bold grille design, and it happens to be pretty much black chrome. You've now got some contours on the hood. It's no longer your blase vanilla yogurt car. These actually have some style. Look at the fastback design at the back. And you've got these great wheels here too. How about that cool rocker that sculpts inwards and then twists and flares at the back? Chrome accents, sunroof, soft touch, little spoiler along the back to show it's a little bit on the sportier edge, as suggested there by the name, and it's sport. How about those great little exhaust ends right there on both sides? And a pretty little chrome Honda accent there with a backup camera tucked away. Very luxurious for what was considered a home everyday car for the family. I'll be honest, Honda's come a long ways with the Accord. It used to be the garden variety car, but it's now actually got some sporting intentions, and with over 250 horsepower, it's guaranteed to light your day. But if for some reason you're a little bit bored with that, Acura uses the same engine as they're the upscale version of a Honda, and you can find it in the RDX or the TLX models. So at the end of the day, there's already been cars that have made 1 million miles, and it's proof in the pudding that between Honda's reputation and confirmation in the field that this engine will likely last forever. Another simple, basic mode of transportation is the wonderful Toyota Corolla. Now, they're not perfect, but they are ultra cheap, and they're very economical, and I would have no problems in recommending one to close family or parents. And here we are. The Toyota Corolla. This one's the LE version. As you can see, Corolla, you've got some simple little taillights by Toyota, great little vents on the bottom, and extra little spoiler on the rear. Adds a little touch of style to this vehicle. Wonderful handles, a little nicer than the Mitsu, back and front. No sunroof on this model, but the interior looks a little bit stepped up from the Mitsubishi Lancer for sure. Although not ultra exciting, it is still built to last the test of time. Basic little mirror. We only have hubcaps there. There's no aluminum wheels, very basic. Front end, look, great little headlight assembly. Absolutely does look sharp from the front end with the big grille, the big mouth grille that you're seeing on Lexus and Toyota products across the line. Here we are in this wonderful Toyota. And the engine underneath there is a 138 horsepower, 1.8 liter, 4-banger, strapped to a CVT transmission, which everybody knows CVTs, continuously variable transmissions, aren't the most exciting experience. However, for a car of low power like this, and for somebody who just wants something basic and simple, it definitely does the trick. So what can possibly go wrong with a simple vehicle like this? Not much. EVAP systems are common issues that spit out check engine lights with these. Mass airflow sensors have been an issue. Random not starting issues do occur from time to time. But generally, there's not a whole lot to go wrong on these vehicles. They're simple, robust, and you can easily get 300,000-400,000 miles if you just keep doing your oil changes, change the brakes, change the tires, and this car gets an amazing fuel economy as well. The Toyota Corolla, that's an easy one to recommend for anybody that you care about. The next one on my list is about as exciting as the snow that it's parked next to. Unfortunately, it's the Toyota Camry, but because it is so reliable, it's one that you just can't help deny. It's truly one of the go-to cars. If you want to recommend a car for your friends, family, or you, this is a great place to start. Starting around $26,000, you can get a 4-cylinder engine, or you can get a small hybrid attachment, or you get the preferred 3.5-liter V6 that makes about 301 horsepower, all strapped to an 8-speed automatic transmission, which is different than some of the other vehicles that we spoke with CVTs. This is a little nicer. There we have the venerable Toyota Camry. Great aluminum wheels, and if you look here, it actually does look semi-sporty. Has keyless entry, great mirrors with a nice little chrome finish there. Some you can get sunroof, this one's plain Jane. Of course, you get this wonderful little T-tray spoiler up here on the back on this Toyota Camry. Love the rear tail light assembly, it looks very sharp and crisp. Look at these little vents there, and you've got 2 pipes and no 2 pipes. So it's essentially a dual exhaust on this particular model. How about the rear finishing down there? And looking down the side, it looks sharp. How about those rocker panels are a little pronounced, makes it look aggressive. And looking at the front, you've got these wonderful new headlights by Toyota, fake vents, more fake vents, and the Toyota with the big wings. And of course, you've got a bit of a big mouth grille going on there, almost like Toyota and Lexus. Some great contours to the hood right there, you can see. Easy car to live with. All you'll do is put gas, change tires, brakes every once in a while, and your oil every 10,000 kilometers. But what's the interior like? Well, it's certainly not a Lexus, and it's not trying to be, but the interior is made up of high quality materials that are guaranteed to wear 3, 4, 500,000 miles. Toyota Camry, one that is easy to live with. I could give to my grandparents, my parents, my kids, and I could even drive one myself and not even worry about it. The next model that I'd recommend, because it's cheap to buy at about $23,000 starting price, you can't really go wrong, and it's built by Toyota, and it's the CHRs we have right here. Now, there's a couple of early model issues that I want to talk about, but first let's have a quick look around. These are cheap, frugal, and fun to drive. They also look very sporty. Let's look. I love the looks of this new CHR. They've got some great flared fenders. They look a little muscular there for sure. And look at these great accents by Toyota. And they've got this awesome little lip up there. It looks sharp, and a real tail light. Almost looks like a Honda Civic. But the rear finishing actually looks very stylish as well. And you've got the plastic rock guards here and more plastic protection here. The entire vehicle is protected very well from stones coming off the road there, so they don't smack the paint and ruin the paint job. Here we have a great keyless entry, and the rear doors open in a different fashion. How about the mirrors? Love that style of mirror. Look very contoured, very sharp with this little light on there. And more flare on the front. Absolutely looks sharp. It's a very attractive looking little car. More vents. Looks very strong and contoured in the front. Wonderful headlight setup by this Toyota. Looks very, very sharp. And so the overall contour is quite attractive. Love the looks of it, and it doesn't look like a lot of the other cars on the street. Look at the crisp looking wheels too. They look sharp. What's the interior look like? Well, the interior looks much, much nicer than some of its competitors, particularly at a $23,000 price tag. Toyota has certainly brought a lot of their premium model technologies to the picture in the CHR. So how is it that Toyota is so cheap with these cars? Well, there is unfortunately a couple of issues. One of them is the AC system. Freon leaks and they just stop working completely. Early generational issues, I'm sure. I'm sure Toyota would likely get that sorted. CVT, because this is a 144 horsepower 2-liter 4-cylinder engine strapped to a continuously variable transmission, means that's always a risk. Every CVT transmission on the market seems to suffer certain issues. This one's no different. And there's some owners that have complained about CVT issues with them piling up. Low fluid levels, hums, whines, and just catastrophic failure. One customer even reported at 10,000 miles, theirs failed flat out. Knowing Toyota, they'll likely get those issues sorted out in fairly short order, and likely because this is a newer model, some of these problems are attributed to some of the newer packaging. And as a result, because it's so stylish, performs well, and it's so frugal, this is one that I have no qualms recommending to you, my friends and family. The Toyota CHR. Unfortunately, trucks are a difficult conversation in 24, 25, and 26 engines that are failing. Rod bearings. We're hearing issues with the Toyota new V6 engines. How about the GMs, the 6.2 L87s? Those are failing. How about a lot of the diesel, the small Cummins engines that we're seeing? And Chevy drivetrains have been problematic for quite some time. Ford 2.7s, 3 liters, and their wet belt systems. There seems to be problems and recalls across the board. So where do you find a reliable truck these days? Something that's simple, durable, and long-lasting? Well, let's talk. One truck that's on my list, and we know it's from a brand that isn't necessarily the most popular right now. They're having struggles with selling a lot of their vehicles, and a lot of the issues with some of these other manufacturers is the CVTs or small turbo engines. This vehicle has none of that, and this is why this is a little gem and it gets overlooked so often. Specifically the Nissan Frontier. They have it nicely embossed. This is a Pro 4X. Of course, as an upgrade, you can also get an S base model. You can also get an extended box on these upscale trim, and I'll explain why this is one of those vehicles you really need to consider. Okay, yes, they have all of the upgraded detailing. It's not that it's that simple of a vehicle, but you do get painted bumpers, so it's not that cheap there. 4X, of course, it does allow you the capability of going more off-road. It's more designed for that. I love this military style of rim that they have there with this little orange decals on there. It's beautiful. Lots of plastic, which keeps, of course, the stones off the bodywork, help prevent rust over long term. Get a rear slider like all of the other manufacturers. These vehicles are nice, they're attractive, but there's more than just the way they look. look. It's really more about what's under the hood that really matters most. Where we said a lot of these vehicles are going with problematic transmissions, problematic engines. This is one of Nissan's best. And again, it definitely gets overlooked when we're talking about the latest brand new Tacoma, as well as other vehicles like the Ford Ranger, Chevrolet Colorado, as well as the Canyon in GMC's world. And even the Ford Maverick has been selling alarming numbers, largely because of the cost and the price point. But they're not necessarily built on the sturdiest platform. This is truly a truck platform, unlike the Maverick, which is more based on a minivan or unibody platform. This is a true truck. While some of its competition, like the Colorado, has a tow rating of 7,650 pounds, this one is only towing 7,100 pounds, but it's more than enough for everybody's daily use. You've got a small boat, a small trailer, this will tow that. But more importantly, this also features a 9-speed automatic transmission. That's right, and that transmission lately has not been all that problematic. Older generation Frontiers, if you go back 10, 15 years, they had some problems with, of course, coolant making its way into the transmission and taking it out entirely. But this latest 9-speed automatic transmission seems to be far less problematic. You have a vehicle that has all of the amenities that all of its competition has. The price is competitive as well, and likely going down to the Nissan dealership, you're probably going to get yourself a smoking deal because they're really trying to push their products out the door. What's also missing in a lot of this vehicle's competition is what's under the hood, and not just that transmission, it's the engine. This has a 3.8 liter naturally aspirated V6 engine that makes about 310 horsepower and 250, 60 pound-feet of torque thereabouts. The key is it doesn't have all of the extras. There's no hybrid here. There's no CVT here. There's just a good old-fashioned torque converter automatic transmission, a naturally aspirated V6, where even its competition directly in the Toyota Tacoma in the latest generation has that 2.4 liter turbo 4. They've pretty much given up. From everything I've seen and personally experienced, this will definitely outlast those from Ford, General Motors, Chevy, of course, and I hate to say it, even Toyota has now been struggling with some of their problem areas with some of their 8-speed automatic transmissions in the latest Toyota Tacoma. Of course, that 2.4 liter turbo 4 means it's going to be working a lot harder. This is still what's left over some of the oldest generation technology, and while some people think that's old-fashioned, it also has an amazing host of standard safety features. And the main thing that I really love about this is because it's still old school. I can still work under the hood on this. After the warranty's gone, you know, that 3 years comes and goes pretty quickly. And then after that warranty period's gone, you have one of those complex vehicles from one of the other brands, you're likely not going to be able to fix a lot of that. But this vehicle here, even for the do-it-yourselfer, or even if you don't like working on yourself, if you just want to take it into a shop to have a mechanic work on it, it's a lot simpler setup. So there's more mechanics and more people set up to actually diagnose and repair these types of vehicles. I mean, even with the headlights, a very simplistic setup. Even you get an LED here, there is enough old school tech here mixed in with some touches of modern day features. You've got sensors here on the mirrors. You've got the nice access in. Of course, you even get a sunroof on top. And look, you even have the big screen in the center with enough modern tech. Of course, you also get leather interior and then contrasting stitching on this vehicle. It is an absolute gorgeous vehicle, zooms around, punchy enough, and certainly reliable enough to last the distance. You'll probably get 250, 300,000 miles out of this, and all along the way, it's a simpler vehicle to own and operate. Definitely one you need to give it a look. The Nissan Frontier, the latest and the greatest. And here's a truck that's definitely got to make your list if you're looking for a smaller truck. The latest and greatest Toyota Tacoma isn't one that you necessarily want to target. If you need a new truck, I understand, but they've had their share of issues. They've had equipment falling apart. They've certainly, more importantly, had that issue with the 8-speed automatic transmission, which is new for the latest and greatest Toyota Tacoma. But this here is the previous generation. This one's a 2022, and this here is the version that I would recommend buying. If you want a truck that's going to last longer than the second coming, this is probably it right here. Now, you can get a couple different drivetrain combos, you can get a couple different transmission combinations, and as well all kinds of payload capacity here. This actually hauls more weight than the Honda does, but it's slightly less rating than you get in that Nissan, but it's somewhere stuck in the middle. Let's talk about that in a second. But first of all, let's look at what it has to offer. Sort of an old school plastic grille, very durable, very simple. You do get the projector lights, so it's not the old days of the old dim lit light bulb. You do get that nicer lighting system in these vehicles. Look, this particular truck here has this nice painted flares right here. This is a Tacoma, of course, naturally high gloss finishing here. Nice detail here. Look, old school, you actually use a key to unlock and get in. That's nice. This one does not have the sunroof, although that's because it's the SR5 and that means it's one of the lowest trim levels. But even with that, you do get the highway rubber, of course, easy naturally right in there to the gas. Of course, you have this beautiful little alloy wheels here, circle around. You do get a rear slider on the back, which is nice. Standard looking taillights. This is a 4x4, and rear wheel drive is standard with these vehicles, but again, this is a Tacoma with the V6, which is the one that you want. You can get a V6 like this vehicle with 278 horsepower and about 265 pound-feet of torque under the hood, or the base engine, which is a very anemic 2.7 liter 4-cylinder, 159 horsepower is all you're getting. And again, you can get rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, as this one's equipped completely with four-wheel drive. You can also get a 6-speed automatic transmission, which this one's outfitted with, or you can get a 6-speed manual gearbox, which actually works a lot better. Many say the tuning of the 6-speed auto left the vehicle sort of lurching, always looking for the right gear. It wasn't necessarily the most intuitive. It wasn't a reliability issue. It just wasn't necessarily the best to drive. This generation of the Tacoma has a payload capacity of about 1,155 pounds and is able to tow as much as 6,400 pounds right there. Whereas, as I said, a little bit less than the Nissan, which is around 7,100, and a little bit more than the Honda, which is a little bit less, closer to 5,000 pounds. 21.1 gallons of fuel. These trucks, even with a smaller chassis like this, aren't necessarily the most economically in terms of fuel consumption, but again, high teens, low 20s for city highway driving is right competitive with some of their direct competition. With these trucks here, you get the leaf spring rear suspension, which definitely helps you with the towing capacity. It doesn't give you quite a smoother ride, but it certainly allows you to tow more weight. But in the front, we have coil suspension with double wishbones, and the brakes are disc up front and drum in the back. And this Toyota here is another example of keeping it simple. It has a naturally aspirated 4 or 6-cylinder engine, a standard torque converter auto or manual gearbox with a clutch with the third pedal. It's a simple truck. It is built to do truck duties, and it's easy to maintain. That 3.5 liter V6 is ultra reliable for Toyota too. It's legendary. It's been around a long time, and it's clearly one of the vehicles that's built to go hundreds of thousands of miles. This is one of Toyota's best vehicles ever made. It certainly made the reputation for reliability, as well as the older outgoing Tundra. The older outgoing Tundra, being the full-size version of this, is definitely not as reliable either, with the current generation blowing main bearings, whereas the older outgoing version, like this older outgoing Tacoma, those were also very reliable. So the key of ultra durability is simple. Torque converter auto, manual gearbox, naturally aspirated V6 engines, a significant amount of tow capacity, simple drivetrains, no excess technology buried within. Just means you've got the recipe for some of the most reliable small trucks. I wouldn't advise anybody look anywhere else if reliability, durability, and long life of your vehicle are the primary objectives. Here's the next small truck that I would seriously consider buying, and one of the only in the small truck sector. What we're talking about here is, of course, a Honda, and this is a Ridgeline and Trail Sport specifically, which is a higher trim level vehicle. It's absolutely beautiful looking truck, you know, as opposed to the older one that looked more like a Ranchero. You remember the original Ridgeline was a little bit unconventional, had more of a slope back on it. You couldn't even properly fit an actual canopy on it without it looking extremely odd. But this one actually looks more like a truck, and it does a lot of truck duties, but it's also Honda. And with that comes reliability. We'll talk about some of the specifications in a second, but I love the looks of it. This new redesign on Honda's new Ridgeline looks beautiful. Of course, you do get beautiful projector lamps, all kinds of little vents and detailing on the front end. This one's a little bit more dressy than we saw in the Nissan, and it's a Honda product. For those that don't have the confidence in Nissan, Honda will likely be here for a long time. We know that Honda was going to ante up and pony up and partner up with Nissan to get them out of hot water, because Nissan's struggling financially right now. Honda is definitely not going anywhere anytime soon. Great brand, the big H Trail Sport, all kinds of detailing here. I love the headlights. And even the mirrors here, the high gloss finish on this vehicle. You do get a sunroof here as well, and same thing as the Nissan, a little touch to get in. And of course, nicer, smaller handles. Tonneau cover on this particular unit. You do get a slider on there as well. So a lot of the same features that you're finding over on the Nissan, but more specifically, it's the reliability. That's why I buy these over the GM products, over the Ford products, because Honda does generally make a pretty reliable product. You get the full 4 doors here, and even this is nicely sealed up. As opposed to a lot of trucks, you'll notice they usually have this big space here between the body and the box. This one here is nicely sealed up, less likely to have flex in the body, and certainly less wind noise. It's a great looking vehicle, but more importantly, why I would buy this, naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 that they've been using for years. In the Pilot, you'll find it also in the MDX and the Acura products. It's been around a long time. Now, it does use a timing belt. A word of caution, you're going to have to continue doing ongoing maintenance. It's not a lot, but every 100,000 miles or so, you have to think about timing belts. It's a little bit more unconventional in that regards, but it is very, very dependable. That engine's been around a long time, but that V6 engine does put out about 280 horsepower, so it's slightly down from the Nissan, but it does put out about 262 pound-feet of torque, very similar. The beauty is this also has a 9-speed automatic transmission, similar to what you're finding over a Nissan. On top of it, you also get the iVTM4, the all-wheel drive system that does help you claw through snow and ice. You also get a towing capacity in this vehicle of about 5,000 pounds. Now, that's a couple thousand pounds less than you're finding on the Nissan. It depends on your towing duty. A lot of people buy these vehicles just to haul their motorcycle in the box, just to tow a small boat around, or, you know, some kind of smaller trailer. It will tackle most of your light duty truck needs, but it also gets 18 miles per gallon in the city and about 24 miles to the gallon on the highway. Very similar to the Nissan, although the Nissan, I believe, is more close to 17 and about 22, 23 miles per gallon. But it's not too far off. So it's very similar in regards to fuel economy overall. It does have the intelligent traction management system in here, the off-road tuned suspension in the Trail Sport like we have on this one, so it has a better all-wheel drive system. It has a 5'4" box, and the payload capacity of this truck is about 1,583 pounds as well. These vehicles weigh just over 4,000 pounds, so they're by no means a heavyweight. On top of it, the Ridgeline has some nice little trick features like a drop-in tailgate, or as well it swings like a barn door. You also get a set of dual exhaust tips on here, backup camera, all of the extra features that you're finding in a lot of the premium vehicles. And this Ridgeline, it's also embossed back there, LED taillights. It's a beautiful package, beautiful wheels, and certainly one, even with running guards on the bottom, it allows even for smaller people to get inside. When it comes to trucks, I like to keep it simple. We're not looking for big turbocharged, direct injected, fire-breathing vehicles with CVT transmissions, hybrid technology, and all of the extra amenities to create all kinds of complexities. When you're driving a truck, you want something simple. Smaller trucks usually deliver that in spades, simple, effective, but lower cost than going full size. This one meets the grade on all accounts, and it's a Honda, so I trust the reliability. That engine's been around a long time, other than to be aware there was a bit of a running recall for some engine issues in a certain set of VIN numbers, but outside of that, a very reliable vehicle. This definitely outpaces any of its competition. It's one that's really popular these days. It's luxury SUVs. Everybody loves an SUV these days. They can haul the family, the kidlings, head on down to the mountains, go skiing, as well as tow your little boat to the lake. They offer a lot of technology and performance, so you are able to actually have your cake and eat it too. Now, nobody wants to be stuck with a high dollar luxury SUV that's going to cost you $200 an hour shop rate, huge expensive repairs, high maintenance costs. So it's imperative that you have a great list of luxury SUVs that are very reliable. Next vehicle on my list that I would actually recommend would be the X5, but only with the B58 engine, which is BMW's latest turbo 6-cylinder engine. Did you know it's also equipped in the new Toyota Supra? Yes, they're actually quite a bit more robust than the last generation 6-cylinder engines. But let's take a quick look. First of all, you have the latest LEDs by BMW. You've got the oversized grille, which opens and closes for more airflow. You get additional beefiness looking from the front end, and some great aluminum wheels. How about these little vents? And how about a rocker panel that has all this tip chrome on it? But let's not forget about all the plastic cladding to protect the vehicle from gravel off the road. Beautiful dual layer luggage rack up top to haul all your garbage and junk to the trash compactor. You have soft touch. And you've got the latest tail lights, which means this vehicle looks as exciting as it is to drive, because it has the 40i. As I said, this is the only engine you want in the X5. It also has the 1 and 2 tips, but look, it's fake. There's a fake tailpipe in there. And this side looks very strong and menacing, almost pickup truck-like. And the interior is as good as it gets in the BMW world with the latest and greatest iDrive system. So this is another one of those phenomenons that I've explained the X5s in the past. Do not buy anything with the older generation Turbo 6s. The N55 was a problematic engine, idle problems, leaks, all kinds of things. Although they were better than the N54 before it, the N54 was the twin-turbo 6-cylinder. Run from that from any vehicle in the BMW lineup that has the N54 twin-turbo. Stay away from that engine. But BMW's finally got their act together, and the B58 that's tucked under the hood of this rig is far more robust than anything BMW's put in under their hood since they've turbocharged 6-cylinder engines. Otherwise, go naturally aspirated from many moons ago. But stay away from the M cars unless you're willing to pay the price for maintenance and repairs. Definitely stay away from the 50 series vehicles because they have the twin turbo 4.4 liter V8 that is known for coughing up oil, eating turbos, burning the heads, and chomping on batteries. So this is the X5 you want, and you're going to want to keep this for 5 to 10 years at least because the first few years is heavy depreciation. After that, it's all cherry on the cake. My list is almost laughable, and it's a Lexus RX, what we see here. Now, why is it laughable? Well, because it's a Toyota-based product. It's built for the longevity. It's built to last the test of time. What we have here is the RX 350. That means it's got the 3.5 liter V6, naturally aspirated. That's right, no turbos to cause any extra heat or undue wear, and it makes just over 300 horsepower. So it has more than enough get up and go to light your day. Now, they're also quite attractive. I mean, they also have the great wheels on there. As you can see, this one's covered. It's brand new off the truck. Great little taillight finishes on both sides, even though it looks a little fake down the chute. And you have the conventional rear taillights, and you've got that little shelf. Definitely has a sporting look to it, and there's nothing offensive about the styling of an RX. And this is an RX 350. You can also get hybrid models, but the interior is literally one of the nicest. Again, they've come so far in this game that one could argue that they even outdo Mercedes and BMW in the quality department. They've got a sunroof on top, soft touch door handles. And how about those mirrors with the chrome little strip on there? And how about the front end? Also looks very aggressive because now you have the underbite, so it has a very aggressive looking chin on there. Little vents, brushed aluminum all the way around, kind of gives a nice border to this big menacing grille, which some people like, some people not. And you have these very low profile headlights with a wonderful LED strip. So I wish I could tell you more about things that are problematic with these vehicles, but the truth of the matter is there's really nothing consistent. You even go to NHTSA website for recalls, there's not a lot going on there. And these vehicles just generally don't break. They wear out, sure, eventually with time, do your oil services, put brakes and tires on it, but they just don't wear out. And as a result, if you want something that looks good, goes good, likely outlast you and me, this is your vehicle, the Lexus RX. Next vehicle on my list is here, and it's guaranteed to impress, and it's the Lexus GX 460. Why? Well, it's got the classic Lexus front grille. It has a 4.6 liter V8 that makes about 300 horsepower, and it has all the great add-ons here. This is, after all, Toyota's big brother, Lexus, and of course it has all the quality built inside to keep this thing running for years and years. Now, you've got some pretty cool headlights on these. You've got some really aggressive front spoiler. I mean, look at that. It does look very powerful. You've got these wonderful alloy wheels by Lexus right there. You've got running boards for those short in-laws to be able to hop, skip, and jump, or those little leprechauns like to jump in the back seat. Awesome little mirrors. Look at the chrome accent and the lights on the sides, and more chrome on top to haul around the garbage and junk on the roof. And you look here, very versatile, very utilitarian, but maximizes the space because after all, the most efficient space is a square. It has Lexus conventional rear taillights, and of course you can haul a pile of junk, you can haul a trailer or boat because you have a hitch. And it's the GX 460, meaning this is a body on frame design, and so it's as rugged as a pickup truck and as luxurious as anything you could possibly imagine from the German brand. It has crawl control, multi-terrain select, it also has underview here as well, and this vehicle is as capable off-road as it is on-road. This actually does look a little stylish. Look at the flare on the back, moving along to the side, and the interior is again as luxurious as anything you would expect from a top-end luxury vehicle. So at the end of the day, this is the type of vehicle you would buy today and you could own it 20 years later because it will last the test of time. The Lexus GX 460. The next vehicle on my list is right here. It's another Porsche, and it's the Porsche Macan. And these vehicles are made in Leipzig, Germany, and as a result, a lot of the care and attention go into these vehicles. They're well made, they're well crafted, the materials are top shelf, but look at all the lines, they all match up very exceptionally well. Rims are very nice, high quality headlight components, spoilers, sunroof, and look at even the way this is nicely amalgamated here, and you've got the LEDs on the mirrors. Soft touch, but much more better blended in there. PDK transmission with one of the best and nicest interiors you'll find in this industry and segment. And the latest have these wonderful rear taillight assembly with the full light bar across the back. And you'll notice this one has quad tailpipes. That's because it's a Macan S. There's also a whole lot of other variations of the Macan. That's what makes it very interesting, is that depending on your price point, you can afford to buy one in just about every budget. For example, you've got a Macan, Macan S, Macan GTS, And you can also get a turbo. Now, engines can vary from a 2-liter turbo in the base model. You can get up to a 3-liter twin-turbo V6, and you can now get a 2.9-liter twin-turbo V6. So lots of variations and lots of different availability and lots of different budget availability. J.D. Power also ranked them the most dependable subcompact SUV on the market for 2021. And actually, the wife and I were shopping for one of these last year and found it very difficult to find the right vehicle because there's so few of them out there, and many of them have very high miles on them because they're just so long lasting. They also hold their value and they're good for the long term. You won't lose your shirt if you own one for more than 5 years. The next vehicle on my list is really hard to deny. I've got actually a couple of friends with vehicles like this, actually older generation ones, and they just won't give them up. They just keep going on and on and on. And what we have is the Acura MDX like we have here. Now this one is a hybrid, but of course you'll see hybrid. You've got the cool mirrors on here. You've also got the soft touch handles right there. And of course, you've got some pretty sloped back end, makes it look very sporty for sure from the back. You also get some really beautiful wheels on these vehicles, almost like a diamond cut essentially. Beautiful rocker panels with chrome accents, standard style sunroof, and chrome luggage racks to haul more junk and garbage around. How about the headlights that look a little bit confused, although very complex and quite interesting, almost sort of mesmerizing. And then you have a cool grille and the big A that just shows bold and tells you who's the tough guy around this town. Of course, you've got the chrome on the front lip as well, headlight washers, and a pretty powerful bulging hood. That also definitely gives it a little more menacing look and strength from the front end. The side looks quite sporty, and the interior is extremely well appointed, almost better than a lot of the vehicles I've seen in the German arena these days. Very high quality, slightly small on the infotainment screen, but otherwise very well made. 3.5-liter V6 makes about 290 horsepower. You've got all-wheel drive system there. Would you believe records show that almost 12% of MDX owners keep their vehicles longer than 15 years? That talks about serious satisfaction by owners. Unfortunately, there are a few issues along the way. Some of them have been known to crap out check engine lights. You get rough idles from time to time, and there have been cases where the trannies blow out due to contamination in the torque converter. They've also been ranked very high by experts because of their safety ratings, partially because their headlights are extremely powerful and they have great child restraint systems built on board. So all in all, the Acura MDX is one that you could buy today, and again, similar to the Lexus, you could own it for the next 25 years, probably put a few dollars here and there, but otherwise basically trouble-free motoring.
And the next one there that is literally going to last over 300,000 miles, but there comes with a caveat. You've got to do care of the maintenance, and the maintenance is not cheap with these vehicles. G-Wagon, you can get a couple different variations now. I mean, G-Wagon's been around for many years, but in the latest iterations, there's a couple options. I mean, you have a couple of V8 options. Right here, you have beautiful lights on this 3-pointed star unit. Obviously, it's a gorgeous vehicle, but it is mounted on true off-road suspension, and the military's use this, and it can go literally almost anywhere that a Jeep can. Yeah, you have great trim that's robust, handles that are tough. Everything that's made on this vehicle is very robust. Yeah, you got the great alloy wheels, but I mean, you swap that out to steel and you're good to go. This is an AMG version, as you can see. Nice. This is the G63. That means the latest version of this vehicle actually has a 575 horsepower V8 engine. The interior is absolutely gorgeous with quilted stitching and every amenity. You can also get the 550 version, which actually has a little bit less power, but it is the 4-liter twin turbo V8, and it just puts it down 0 to 60 5.1 seconds. But because they're built on such a sturdy platform, because they're running on a V8 engine, and if you do your maintenance, they are sure to last a long time. Remember, it's those little 4-cylinder engines that rev like hummingbirds that often have to work twice as hard. This engine, if you're not bagging it and you're taking care of the maintenance, because of its chassis design and Mercedes' legendary quality, that vehicle is going to go at least 300,000 miles. Another one that's guaranteed to run over 300,000 miles is this rig. Yeah, no joke. I'm in front of the right vehicle. Yeah, we're looking at a Lincoln, because normally Ford products, you know, they're great, they're innovative, they look cool, but sometimes the performance, reliability, long-standing is not always there. But this one here, it is. This is literally rated to go a long time. And what do we have here? This is a Lincoln, obviously full-size tank. This thing is absolutely massive. Great lighting all over. This is the Navigator, as mentioned. You do have these cool little handles, both end, and we just go and go and go and go and go. This thing is massive. And again, as I say, it's a Lincoln. You can tow a ton of weight with it, but it does have a third rows available with this vehicle. Lots of space back here, great rims. You have the drop-down bottom rocker panel so you can help all the little people in your life jump up in there. Of course, beautiful mirrors. and an interior that looks almost on par with a modern day Range Rover.
But this does have a 10-speed automatic transmission, which makes it pretty robust. It's never using that slush box, where there's no CVTs here, folks, but it's that 3.5-liter V6 EcoBoost. At first, people were skeptical. They wanted normally aspirated, naturally aspirated engines. Ford kept pushing through. Their twin-turbo V6s now are great engines, and this one here with the 3.5-liter makes over 400 ponies and can crack off a blistering 5.3 second to 0 to 60 mile per hour time. It's fun, frivolous, and let's not forget, average of 17 miles per gallon in the city and about 23 on the highway means you're going to average around 20 miles per gallon. It's not particularly frugal unit, but it certainly is cruising in the lap of luxury. It's large and in charge. It's competition with the likes of the BMW X7 as well as a Cadillac Escapade. And because it is literally mounted on a truck chassis,
Similar to what we're seeing over here on a pickup truck,
basically means it's just going to take the beats. You can hit the rough roads. That I-beam chassis means it's just going to truck along. You can beat it, you can drive it hard. It's going to go off-road, drive on the street, and it's just going to last a long time.
Where have all the reliable mid-sized luxury vehicles gone? Well, everything's almost SUVs these days. And unfortunately, even Acura is making their models go away. Lexus is making their models go away. There's very, very few, unless you go European and spend a ton of money. But guess what? BMW's got some great models. That B58 inline 6, absolutely almost bulletproof. There's a lot of great drivetrains still out there on the market for the mid-sized luxury sedan market.
right here we have this gorgeous Lexus. We have the big mouth grille. We all know that some love it, some don't. But if you want a vehicle to last forever, this is your car. Of course, you've got amazing headlights there. I love that design. Beautiful chrome accent and detail along the front of this car. Just makes it look very, very sharp, very sporty, athletic, as well as quite luxurious. Beautiful wheels there, amazing. Beautiful LC500 style fold-away mirrors. You've got chrome detail around the windows, oversized glass panel on the roof there to allow sun and light inside for all the happy little passengers. Here on the front, you have these beautiful little crease lines, give it a little extra pizzazz. What's the interior like?
Well, Lexus has some of the nicest, highest quality leather interiors that you can possibly dream for, and chocked with every amenity you can possibly want.
Here on the side, we have this wonderful ducktail type of rear trunk lid there. Love these detail on these tail lights, definitely Toyota-esque.
Gorgeous little exhaust tips right down there. Look inside, sort of fake.
It's a great looking car all the way around. Front to back, back to front. You can't go wrong with this type of vehicle.
It's not a real shocker. The attention to detail, they take a pride in the construction and craftsmanship and correct problems in the now before it gets to be too big of an issue. The other reality is Toyota and Lexus stick with what they know and they don't make drastic changes. They're not about the most innovation, but they are in fact about reliability, durability, and don't fix what's not broken, because it's the engine under here as the ES350 that's the key to this ingredient. What we're talking about here
is a naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6 plugged in the front end there. It's 24 valves, VVTi. It also uses something that's very, very important.
One of the key factors for reliability on this car and longevity is the fact that it swaps also between direct injection and port fuel injection, and it toggles accordingly. Because one of the key issues with a lot of direct injected engines is they carbon up. You get too much carbon in the intake valves, and they start losing the breathing and the power. And of course, this does not happen because with port injection, it puts the fuel behind the valves and constantly cleans those intake valves. It's about efficiency, longevity, and that's what they do best. This engine's featured about 300 horsepower, which is great. It's more than enough to scoot this car down the road, and it's coupled up to an 8-speed direct shift automatic transmission. But this engine is more specifically known as the 2GR FKS, and it's the V6 making 302 horsepower, as I mentioned. So you definitely can't go wrong with this little workhorse. Cars that's likely going to last a long, long time, and you don't mind owning it outside of warranty because it's built well, it's built sturdily, and it's meant to last probably hundreds of thousands of miles. But it's not this one. It's the Mercedes E-Class W212. What we have here is the W211. This is the older version up to 2010. And the biggest way you can tell this is do not buy the car with the round headlights. That is bad. I mean, look, it's a leaker. There's oil under there. Sure, it has the great same grille as the W212, but it's missing the little logo. This is not the car you want. You want the next generation. What you want is the 2010 to 2016 called the W212. It actually has headlights a lot more like this. Now this is an S-Class, but this style of headlight gets fixated on the E-Class, and then you have essentially the W212. E-Class has always been that middle of the road car, you know, C-Class entry level, S-Class top of the line. E-Class has always sort of felt somewhere in the middle, usually a little higher scale. But unfortunately, Mercedes was going through some rough times, and the leaders of the charge up at Mercedes-Benz were looking to save a lot of money, so they cut a lot of corners. They made everything cheap. Things didn't last. They didn't hold up. They broke. They whittled away. Interior rattled apart. You had all kinds of leaks and shorts and engine problems and leaks. And you even had lots of rust. Now this one here is pretty clean, but a lot of them actually had rust. This W211 was the one to avoid. The W212 was a great, great car. It was actually a game changer for Mercedes because they finally realized that durability, reliability, and safety were actually important to the consumer. So they actually addressed those issues. The 212 also was very solid looking and was actually very solid for the long term. It didn't all rattle loose. It didn't rust out as quickly. And the fundamental engine that was under the hood of the W212 was built for the distance. So was the transmission, which other than if it was stored for a long period of time, occasionally you'd find the transmission might get a little jerky for a short while. But other than that, they weren't known for being a problematic issue. There were a few issues even with the 212. And some of those were the air suspension would eventually let go. It could be a compressor, could be the rear airbags. Any number of those components could leak air and eventually the vehicle would settle down on its haunches. A little pricey to fix, but again, it was a premium Benz. The interior had a few shakes and rattles with time, but nothing unruly. Actually, buttons wore well, and actually even the leather upholstery held up very, very well on the 212 models. The wiper system sometimes would fail. Eventually, with significant miles, you'd sometimes get vibration in the steering wheel, which usually meant bushings, engine transmission bushings. And another known issue was sometimes the window regulators, there would be a problem. Sometimes by pulling the door panels, it was a lubrication or adjustment issue, but often there was issues with activating the window and the window not actually automatically opening or closing for that matter. Mechanically, the car was good to go for many, many miles. It held up well, it was structurally sound, and really it was a car worth keeping way beyond warranty period because it was built from a time when Mercedes kind of cared. And the next one on my list is an absolutely delicious car. Still licking my chops over this one. That's right, we're talking about the BMW 340 or 440 Grand Coupe as we see right here. Now the Grand Coupe, of course, is based on a four-door sedan, which means it's got four doors and still essentially has a trunk. Now any 3 or 4 Series cars are not necessarily fitting the bill. But the most reliable ones, the ones that you'll probably want to hold on to the longest, have the 40 Series designation. Like that, we've got the 440i, and you'll notice it has some great taillights. It has dual exhaust tips, of course carbon fiber on there, beautiful. It has a little diffuser on the bottom, has little vents, and it has an absolutely delicious paint job. As you can see, it's almost a matte finish. This one here has a carbon fiber rear tail on there. Amazing and stunning wheels, but that's because it's got the M Performance package. And of course, it's got the delightful little rocker panel down there and adaptive LED by BMW. It also has carbon fiber finishings on the front end here, as well as all the way along. This one is nicely equipped with the M Performance pack. Extra vents and the cool mirrors, of course, with the lights and the indicators, and you've got a little sunroof, why not? This one has the wonderful ZF Auto transmission, which is almost bulletproof. And the important thing to note here is these cars take a real beating for the first 3 or 4 years. As a matter of fact, by the 5th year, 3 and 4 Series cars in the BMW world typically drop down to less than 50% of their original value. But where it gets interesting is this engine, it's called the B58, which is essentially based on the 40 Series car, means it's one of the most robust engines in the BMW lineup today. It's also the same engine that they use in the current generation Toyota Supra. So there's got to be some value in that. That's right, they're actually bulletproof, and they're showing to be far more resilient than any of the other turbo inline 6s before that, and definitely anything with the V8s, which you wouldn't find in a 3 Series anyway. However, I would suggest staying away from the B48, which is the 4-cylinder. Not that it's necessarily a bad engine, it's just the B58 is the engine to have. And if you find yourself keeping this beyond 5 years, you'll find the depreciation curve flatten out quite a bit more, and then it becomes a car worth owning. And honestly, with that drivetrain, the fit and the finish, this is a car worth owning for 10 or 15 years for sure. The BMW 3 and 4 Series with the B58. So the next one on my list is an Audi, and there's not too many Audis that I can say are relatively reliable. But if we're talking about an A6, S4, S5, post 2012 with the 3.0T, that's a supercharged 3-liter V6 engine, makes about 333 horsepower. When equipped with the ZF transmission, they're bulletproof, they're almost flawless. And here we're looking at an S4. Basically anything with the Audi brand like that has the Quattro all-wheel drive system. systems, so they're very robust. When the going gets tough and the snow and the water hits the road, these things can tackle it all. Now, of course, being an Audi and being an S4, like that one right there, they basically come decked out. There's lots of upscale features to them. The performance is there, and they're never lacking for features. I mean, you've got sunroofs, you've got interesting dual colored mirrors, upgraded alloys, but look, we have the S4 calipers. You've got side skirts that are more prominent than the standard A4 models. Classic Audi tail end, but you get more prominent exhaust tips and a more interesting rear splitter. Now, Audis take everything that Volkswagen knows and they just make it a lot better, nicer, and prettier. Now, the 4.2 liter V8 is also another pretty solid engine if you get certain generations. Obviously, not every single engine is flawless. When they put in the S4 of that earlier generation, they do have problems. But later on, the 4.2, when plugged into the R8 and several other models, were actually far more robust. And the issues were upgraded timing chain assembly and the hardware, because that was the problem with the V8. Outside of that and carbon fouling, really the V8 is also a pretty stout engine as well. And the next vehicle right here, the Porsche 911, I've always had a soft spot for. I've owned several myself because they truly bring it to the table, the performance attributes. And not only do they perform well, they've got the reputation for racing, but they've also got the quality, and that's where Porsche wins. These vehicles are built to last, and they're built to last for many, many years. But this one is a Porsche 991 Generation GT3. How do we know that? Right there, it says Porsche GT3. It has the center mounted dual exhaust tips, lots of great vents, accents on the rear splitter. You've got big wings. Of course, this is a 3.8 liter flat six engine parked outside. You've got the gearbox in front of it and then the cabin. So these cars have always been a little tail happy, but over the years, Porsche has finally engineered out most of the tail happy aptitude. These cars also have the wonderful center lock hubs. You can see one big spin and the whole wheel comes off. No sunroof. And you've got the red brake calipers. If you got the yellow, that usually means you have carbon ceramic, but this is the steel rotors. This one has the PDK transmission, and as you can see, Alcantara split with leather interior. Top quality materials. And look at the aggressive spoiler. The Porsche 911 always has that stance, which is to die for. I mean, look at that. It always looks very aggressive. But Porsche has upped the ranks this year by J.D. Powers and Associates to an average brand 86 out of 100 problems per 100 vehicles. That's right, well ahead of the 118 average that the industry sees with luxury cars. And the Porsche 911 does even better than the brand average. These come in with 57 problems per 100 vehicles. Porsche really does put all their heart, soul, R&D into making the 911 better on every single generation, not just from a performance standpoint or efficiency perspective, but also reliability. These cars, you could run across the country and back 10 times over and not worry about them breaking down. You sure can't really say that about this brand. The Ferrari isn't the car that's going to run forever. These do take a lot of maintenance and don't hold a candle for reliability compared to a 911. The vehicle that you can own outside of warranty is... No, it's not a Kia. It's a GS. That's right, the Lexus. Right there, again, we have a Lexus GS model. This one is a GS 350. Beautiful headlights on there. I love this stunning color. In the sunlight, it absolutely beams. You've got the little grills on the front end. How about the large oversized grille that some people, again, don't love a whole lot? But that's seriously one of the most offensive parts to the entire car, because the rest of the car looks absolutely beautiful. In that shade of blue, we've got an F Sport badge right there. You've got beautiful gunmetal gray rims right there. And how about those mirrors with a cool little strip? An interior that is also very, very nicely equipped. Slightly less modern and slightly dated. However, the quality is certainly there and will last the test of time. You've also got a sunroof and soft touch handles. Because it's a GS, they almost always have these types of fitments. You've got a little spoiler on there. You've got these very, very cool aftermarket almost looking taillights. And again, Lexus. We have the all-wheel drive GS 350, and this makes it very functional for poor weather driving. Here we have one and two tailpipes. And as we're talking F Sport 350, basically means it's the blinged out version with the 311 full-on horsepower. Makes it very peppy, fun, sporting, and stylish all in one package. Very easy to love. Really, you could own this car for 15 years and you would never have to worry, because in fact, Lexus and many critics say the GS is seriously, unfortunately missed because they are no longer making this model, and it is in fact the most reliable luxury vehicle in the Lexus brand. And the next one that will likely last a huge amount of miles is the Mercedes-Benz S-Class. And not this one. The W220 is one of the exceptions to the rule. I've also spoke about depreciation, and the S-Class, because it's a premium vehicle, will likely see massive depreciation. But in terms of getting into a car that's maybe 2 or 3 years old, you will find a car that is well built, well engineered, well styled, and will likely last many, many thousands of miles. This one isn't it. The W220, for example, has many problems. And it was the styling for one. The headlights were kind of interesting but different. The interior was slightly substandard in materials. The taillights, not sure they were ever well loved. Here we have an S55 AMG, so there's some value in this particular car just because it is an AMG version, but generally speaking, it wouldn't take long to buy into one of these things at $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 and then all of a sudden have to turn around and throw another $15,000, $20,000 in major repairs as they start to fail. Rust was a big one as well for these. Look down here, it looks like this one is already pieced together. It's got all kinds of bubble and bondo going on there, so you know this one was scabbed together. Here, there's another little bit of rust weeping through there. So problems with that. Air ride suspension, more problems. How about water collecting at the base, shorting out electrics and causing problems there? Timing chains? Yeah, sure, why not? These cars had a lot of problems, and they certainly weren't anywhere near Mercedes' pride and joy. But get around that, some of the newest S-Classes are truly some of the best cars that Mercedes makes. They step it up. The best quality, the best materials, and the best engineering goes behind it. You'll likely have a car that's going to last hundreds of thousands of miles. What do we have next on our list is a Volvo. We have a V60. Similar to its older brother, the V70, these are exceptionally great driving vehicles, wagons, but they have all of the luxury amenities. Looking at the current V60, you'll see typical in any other luxury brand. You'll have alloy wheels, LED headlights, as well as a pretty interesting spoiler to give it that sort of aggressive look, and a pretty raked windshield just for an overall sportiness improvement. As well, let's not forget, look at the massive sunroof on top to give a whole lot of sun into the cabin for all of the passengers. The interior is extremely luxurious and has all the latest appointments. You'll notice the oversized infotainment system, the soft and supple leather interior, and you'll also notice it's got this small rear glass to give it that overall sporting profile. If you look at it from here, it doesn't have that big bulbous SUV look. It looks very, very sharp and aggressive for a wagon. You have these really cool taillights. That's pretty common now for a lot of the Volvo products. And looking at the bottom here, you've got dual exhaust system, and there's the V60 by Volvo, and this one happens to be the T6 all-wheel drive. And so this just happens to be a newer, later, greater version of the old V70. Remember the V70R all-wheel drive? That car had the 2.5-liter 5-cylinder engine, turbocharged, and it would whack 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. It was quick, you could get it in a manual gearbox, and it was truly a whole lot of fun to drive. Who said driving station wagons wasn't cool? Volvo brought cool back to the wagon experience. The V70 had a history of finding lots of cars available on the used car market, 150, 200,000 miles, and still running like a top. So it's proof right there that these cars can certainly run the distance. And the next car on my list that's guaranteed to go the long haul is this car. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's not that Chrysler. That thing's only good for about 80, 90,000 miles. Let's move over here. It's the Honda-based Acura product. We have a TLX right here. And if you look historically, the Acura TL has been a very popular choice. Then along the way, there's been a few slightly problematic areas with transmission. Anything from Acura has been generally pretty stout, and the TL was no exception. It was a great vehicle, offered initially with a 5-cylinder, but came later primarily with a V6. You could also get a manual in some versions, and now they've finally replaced it with the TLX right here. I mean, these are absolutely beautiful vehicles. Here we have the A-Spec version. Of course, beautiful, amazing colors, very, very bold. We have the gunmetal gray wheels. And of course, as we cycle around, we have this very, very interesting spoiler on the back. And there's the TLS, SH all-wheel drive. And we back up and we'll see we've got the exhaust tips. These cars have great lines as well. Very easy to live with. Very sporty looking. Even with the very small sunroof, it still has enough sport to it to pack a punch. I mean, just look at the front end of these cars. Big bold grille and that Acura logo just tell everybody that you've got a winner. So we move along. Of course, you've got these very, very cool headlights here as well. And the interior is slightly more sporty than what you'd find in most Lexus cars, but this Acura is still all pure luxury. And now finally, the newer revised V6 has been replaced by a turbo 4-cylinder engine, 2-liter displacement, now makes about 270 horsepower, actually replaced this outgoing version. It's just a sign of times that every manufacturer now is doing away with the larger displacement engines and replacing that with smaller displacement engines and turbocharging. But this car is guaranteed to run the distance. 2, 3, 400,000 miles, no problem. The Acura TL and TLX. So in terms of everyday driving use in an SUV format, here's the list. First SUV on our list that's going to last 300,000 miles all day long, no matter what you do is... yeah, no, not that one. That one you'll be lucky to make it to 60,000. It's probably going to burn down roadside. It's actually
this beauty right here. And yes, it's a Toyota. And that should not be a big surprise to each and every one of you. Obviously, it's an older version. It still has the older incandescent style headlights. It's a beautiful vehicle, very simple and very long lasting. Big tough mirrors like this that last a long time, and massive roof rack that's good to go. Handles that last, big stepping racks, big tires that are good to roll slowly down the road. Of course, you do have a big sturdy light there, and this is the iForce V8 because it has the 5.7 liter V8. Yes, it has towing capabilities, it has a lot of space to haul all your junk in the trunk, and it has a lot of great technology buried inside. Buttons are large, knobs are humongous, and the leather is sturdy. And the beautiful Toyota Sequoia is known for everybody across the industry. No one can touch this in terms of durability, reliability. With that slow churning 5.7 liter V8, makes a ton of torque and actually rolls down the road gracefully. It's the same engine that they share in the old school outgoing Tundra, and that's why it was a fret when actually they changed up to the new twin turbo V6, because everybody knew Toyota had it nailed with this engine. And the Toyota Sequoia is one of those rare beasts that will last as long as a Sequoia tree, at least 300,000 miles. It's not a surprise we're talking about a Toyota, and Toyota has some of the longest lasting vehicles on the planet today. Now, while it's not exactly a hot rod, it is utilitarian, and I must say, 20 years older generations of this I still see flopping around on the road. Yeah, they've got some rust, but they just keep on going because the heart of the beast, well, under the hood, is typically what keeps these going forever. Beautiful, beefy like headlights. You've got this nice little plateau there, great looking vehicle. Obviously, sharp extra pieces there to basically sustain your drives through the bush. Beautiful step bars for the smaller people in your life. Look at this little mirror. Not so basic anymore, is it? But a very sturdy handle that's meant for strong duty. More great tail lights on here. Yes, you can tow a weight with this too. And of course, a very vertical back, which allows you to maximize your storage capacity in there, which is great. Huge roof racks to get rid of that Hotel 6 mattress that you wanted to get rid of. And inside, everything's built for sturdy application. Very simple, very Spartan. You can almost hose this out with a garden hose and you're good to go. I mean, they do have a beautiful look to them. They almost look like they're crying here. That's the only thing with this generation that almost looks like a tear. Every time I see these drive by, I think, oh, I just want to cry. The reality is there's no crying owning these because they do run forever. Yeah, and they look great too. They're stylish, beautiful alloy wheels there, and just a very stout, sturdy, truly a body on frame design. None of that unibody nonsense here. And that's right, these are literally built like a truck and they will go forever. But it's that engine. What is it? Well, it's a V6 engine. It makes about 270 horsepower and also about 278 pound-feet of torque. Notice the torque is higher than the horsepower. In other words, this vehicle is meant to crawl off roads. It's a workhorse. It's not a race engine. Yes, it has the dual VVTi. That's their variable valve timing system in there. Gives them maximum efficiency down low and maximum breathing up top in the upper rev range. This particular engine has a taper squish combustion chamber design with matching pistons to improve anti-knocking capability. You can also get that mated up to a 6-speed automatic transmission. It's just great. So what is this engine in fact called? Well, this 4-liter engine is called the 1GR FE V6. It's from the massive family of Toyota engines of similar capacity and similar design that are known for overall reliability, durability. Again, you can be rest assured Toyota products are built for longevity, and this one certainly does not disappoint. So it's not working very hard, and there's not excess heat under the hood. Do your simple maintenance. Take care of this vehicle. It will literally last 300, 400, 500,000 miles at the drop of a hat. This beautiful little SUV here dressed in silver. Well, this is a small SUV mounted on a unibody infrastructure, and it's got a great drivetrain. There's a lot of great amenities going on here, and let's get into that. First of all, it's a Honda, of course, and all of their infinite wisdom, they know how to build a car and they know how to do it reliably. The only downside is this has a CVT transmission. That's the continuously variable transmission, which is a love-hate, certainly more hate, but Honda builds better than most, and these are just as reliable as any other manufacturer or better. Beautiful headlights like that, stunning looking wheels, and beautiful rocker panel guards down there, and a little step guard right there for smaller people that need the extra boost to jump on in. And of course, small little handles, simple, but they last forever. There's your little one touch, beautiful little sunroof on top. And what we're looking at here is a CRX EXL. Swim down here, and of course we have this nice little indents. It's a beautiful design in all aspects, attractive from every angle. Beautiful little leather interior, nice wood grain trim, and of course they have this very unique vertical light assembly. Almost looks a little bit like a Volvo, but without spending the Volvo dollars. This one's all-wheel drive as an option. And of course, we have lots of other chrome detail, which makes it look sharp. And of course, you also have a nice little running gear. This one you will notice is a turbo, and that's what we need to talk about. The 1.5 liter turbo is an engine that had a little bit of oil and fuel dilution issues. It's not as fearful as it once originally was. Now, the only real negative is the CVT, and of course, the infotainment system's a little floppy, but otherwise, the car has enough pep and get up and go, and the brakes are more than adequate to bring this car down from significant speed. And the beauty is these little CRVs range anywhere from a meager $24,000 up to $34,000, all in, fully equipped, all-wheel drive, and all of the amenities. Affordable, frugal, sporty, fun to drive, as well as economical. And it definitely won't break the bank. This vehicle will run at least 300,000 miles. Do your brakes, do your tires, and your oil service, and it will outlast you and I. Another SUV guaranteed to pretty much last at least 300,000 miles is that... No, not quite. Actually, I messed up. Here it is again. I must be losing it. But what we have here is clearly a Honda. Obviously, the reliability king next to Toyota and Lexus. These guys have been knowing how to build a car for quite some time. And this is a full-size SUV. It does have third-row seating. It does have primarily front-wheel drive with all-wheel drive optional. It does also have something that allows this thing to go on and on and on. And that's a 3.5-liter V6 under the hood. Makes about 285 horsepower. Strap that to a 10-speed automatic transmission. No CVT here, folks. This one here likely is going to last for a long time because of its general nature and use and that durability. Of course, naturally aspirated engines just mean that it's going to run a long time. Yeah, you have some great wheels and somewhat bland. I mean, this is a long family type SUV. It's not meant for performance. It's certainly not meant as much for styling. We do have some great taillights on this all-wheel drive version as mentioned, and again, the Pilot specifically. Yeah, you have the great overhang, but it's not as aggressive. As you can tell, this vehicle is pretty much more of a long tube to maximize the space. And obviously, you have some nice chrome detail along there. And the interior is going to wear very well as well. They also come with Honda sensing, things for example like backup detection, adaptive cruise control, pedestrian warning. All those features are dialed into this vehicle. You have great technology, but amazing safety as well as reliability. It's Honda. They know how to build a reliable vehicle. Yeah, there's been a few misses. Talk about the new Honda Accord. There's been a few problems with the CVTs, but as it stands, the current generation full-size, stout, solid chassis, this one is a beast and will guarantee to run at least 300,000 miles, the Honda Pilot. First of all, it's a Toyota. Enough said. Most Toyotas are good for 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles on a bad day. Just do your oil services and you're good to go. That's part of the reason. Of course, they have beautiful headlights right there and all kinds of vents and spoilers on the front. You'll notice it's plastic, so it'll take a beating when you hit the curbs. Of course, little lights right there. And I love that grille. It's actually very sharp looking. Can't go wrong with that. Very impressive looking vehicle. Go down the side. Beautiful wheels in this Toyota. And of course, plastic. Beautiful LED taillights. Love that. Especially this is a little nicer than what you're finding in the RAVs, where these are a little more rounded. This is the XLE all-wheel drive, and it's a Highlander. And the added bonus with this vehicle, it's this optional third row tucked right in there. Of course, you have these nice flares. You'll notice there's a real design theme right there, and the interior is absolutely beautiful. For a vehicle that's not considered a luxury vehicle, this is absolutely gorgeous. Deep bolstered seats and all kinds of luxury amenities that just look like it belongs in an upscale vehicle. The beauty is you also have a sunroof on top to allow a little bit of light in, at least for the front passengers, so they've got some light in there. But what's under the hood is also what makes this vehicle reliable. Well, what we're talking about is a 3.5 liter V6, makes about 295 horsepower, and honestly, these vehicles range in price from about $35,000 for the base model all the way up to the platinum top, gets you in for about 50 grand. The added benefit is you can also get a hybrid version of this, and you can get almost 30 miles to the gallon, full-size SUV, 3 rows. What's not to like about the actual practicality of it? Remember, Toyota is a brand that believes in don't fix what's not broken. That 3.5 liter V6 has been around for quite some time, and it's naturally aspirated. A Toyota Highlander is a great vehicle in so many ways. You will literally get bored and sick and tired of looking at it before it lets you down. The vehicle has actually garnered as much reputation lately for reliability as anything from Lexus and Toyota. Mazda, and we'll talk about that engine specifically, but let's take a look. Firstly, this paint is absolutely gorgeous. Yes, that's a new design paint. That's actually called. That's a Soul Red crystal paint that they have that's matted on there now. Absolutely gorgeous look. What we have here is an amazing new SUV by Mazda. Look at these beautiful headlights. Very prominent, very sharp. and fun looking. It looks like it's looking at you and it's all angry. And there's the angry mouth down there as well. Beautiful chrome, gorgeous wheels. Of course, big enough brakes to haul this thing down from a significant speed. We have nice little accents around the wheel wells, great little rocker panels, and this paint is absolutely gorgeous. Of course, there you have the nice little overhang on the back. Beautiful car all the way around. You've got one pipe as well as two pipes there. And I love that taillight assembly, almost copying Lexus. And then on top, we even have a sunroof. So just because it's a small frugal SUV doesn't mean that you have to do without some of the luxury amenities. This car basically looks sharp from every angle. It's a great looking interior, moderate grade of leather or leatherette if you will, but you can actually get a few vehicles, a 2-liter Skyactiv G, you're going to get the 2.5-liter in a couple of different configurations. The engine that I would recommend, PY-VPTS inline 4 turbo, and that's basically what we have here. As you can see right here, Skyactiv G Turbo, that's a 2.5-liter, and it's a great engine in the CX5 signature all-wheel drive version. The great thing with this, you can get in certain markets a 6-speed manual transmission, but more prominently a 6-speed automatic. Made it up to this vehicle. There is cylinder deactivation, but Mazda has it down to more of an art than you would say arguably with GM, where their cylinder deactivation systems kill the engines. These Mazdas have literally come up the rear and nobody saw them coming, but their reliability is literally second to almost only Lexus and Toyota. So these engines are built to last. Even though they're turbocharged, they're still very, very well made. Other great detail, this car produces as much as 250 horsepower and can still rack up about 24 miles per gallon combined fuel economy. It's a great vehicle that's easy to live with, and that engine will run forever. Now, there have been some quality control concerns, but the fact of the matter is, these vehicles, and what we're looking at here, by GMC, it's a Yukon XL, specifically SLT, is actually based on a truck type chassis like that. So you have this body on an I-beam frame. So it'll actually hold up to a lot of hard use. They're very, very durable, very robust, and that's a big part of why these things will last forever. We know that there have been problems. The 5.3-liter V8 engine has had some problems. There have been issues with this 5.3, the 6.2, and lifters specifically. Also, the odd transmission tends to go on these, and quality control isn't quite where it should be for a vehicle that ranges anywhere from $55,000 up to $77,000 in full trim and 4x4. But there's lots going for it. Beautiful interior, slightly plasticky, feels a little bit like a Glad garbage bag, and Tupperware got together and had a love child, but it works. It's tough and it's relatively durable. You do have those overhead racks to haul that project to the dumpster, and of course you have this nice single touch access in, and of course same story for the back. And this is being the SLT, it's a loaded up version, and again, XL means that you've got extra space back here. You set up a small gymnasium, maybe a racquetball court, soccer field, whatever. There's lots of room back there. They're great. Oversized wheels on there. Somebody called 1995, they want their rims back. But they make about 355 horsepower with the 5.3, so they have adequate power. They've got strong, rugged chassis design, and while fit and finish isn't the best, I mean, look at the loose gap here and then the tight gap here. Clearly either been in a collision or it's just not put together all that well. So yeah, it makes about 20 miles to gallon on the highway. It does okay for such a cavernous unit, but it is great because it can haul your boat, it can haul your trailer, it can haul anything you want, including the family, friends, and a small country behind this thing. It's great. It will last a long time just because of the overall truck chassis. Even the subcompact market seems to be a very difficult one to fill. Subcompact cars, subcompact SUVs, everything's powered by small turbo 3s. Everything's also driven by CVT transmissions. Where have the torque converter autos gone? Where have the manual transmissions gone? They're almost all gone, and it's very difficult to find reliable vehicles here in 25 and 26. All we see are EVs, CVTs, turbo 3s, and it's all just a bunch of trees. Not everybody wants to spend $80, $90, $100,000 like in that Ford pickup truck. Some people don't even want to spend the high dollars on these modern day SUVs. Even the non-luxury versions get to be a little bit pricey. Some people are just looking for economy at its finest. For example, vehicles that are often under $25,000 represents great value. They don't have to be locked into a $1,000 a month car payment. They can actually just put a small amount down and drive away. This is this great looking little hot rod right behind me. Obviously, it's a sporty, popular little vehicle in the niche market.
market. Of course, for vehicles that you can find actually under 25 grand, we are looking at a Honda. And of course, they have these great detail. Look at that shiny, glossy look. They also have these beautiful wheels that are pretty much laser cut, great little tuckaway mirrors, and that gorgeous paint is absolutely pearlescent by nature. You do have this back flip here, looks very sharp, pretty intriguing looking design at the back, of course. And naturally, we have this big tailpipe. Looks almost like in a Lamborghini Aventador style tailpipe. Of course, you do have a sunroof on top. And overall, it's a very attractive, popular, sporty, and niche little car. You get a brand new one of these for $23,450 in base trim. This is a two-door. You can also get this in a sedan. There's a couple different configurations. I would suggest getting the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, as it's naturally aspirated and it's more reliable. If you want to step up for more performance, you can go to the 1.5-liter turbo 4, but there have been oil and fuel dilution issues. The 4-cylinder naturally aspirated version here in the coupe format does allow you to go either automatic transmission, or you can get a 6-speed manual with a third pedal and roll your own gears for the sporting experience. 31 to 39 miles per gallon, so you don't have to spend a ton of money on fuel because fuel costs are so high today. You also get a lot of great features like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which makes your driving experience even that much more interesting. There's lots of great safety and technology buried in there, as well as automated emergency braking, as well as airbags to protect every happy little passenger within this vehicle. It's not a big shocker that Honda's had its mass reputation for reliability for many years, and for good reason. Honda takes a lot of pride in building quality engines, quality product that you can be proud of, and a lot of them, with the exception of the odd miss here or there, for the most part, these vehicles are ruthlessly reliable, should cost you next to nothing for maintenance, and of course, you can drive it for 10 or 15 years, not even blink an eye. And the next one on this list is this beautiful little hot rod here. What is this? It's a Mazda, and it's a CX-3. Yeah, this is the all-wheel drive version. You can get the base model with this front-wheel drive. Yeah, it has great little dual exhaust tips on there. Beautiful little taillights at LED. I love that overhang. This car looks very sporty. Of course, alloy wheels on this car. Beautiful little rocker panels down there. Give it a sharp look. No sunroof here, but that's okay. This is a transportation device. Of course, what we have here, projector headlamps, beautiful grille on this Mazda. Oops! And that's not from too much power. That was just an ooey. The interior is clearly a little bit dressed up and shooting way above its price point. Looks quite solid, well made, and some mix of great materials. And these are great vehicles under 25 grand. Yes, you can get this for $23,510 base price. Again, gives you front wheel drive as standard options. 2-liter 4-cylinder engine was in 22, then they moved up to a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine that makes 191 horsepower. Of course, you could get a 6-speed manual gearbox or a 6-speed auto, whatever floats your boat. You also get anywhere from 28 up to 37 miles per gallon, city versus highway, so it's very frugal on fuel, but this does meet the intent for many folks looking for the sporty look, fuel economy, low cost of maintenance, long lifespan, as well as some versatility, which you can find in this small trunk space. Next one on my list is what we have right here. Now, this is the older generation. Take note, clearly always been a very popular choice. Mazda, of course, it's a little hot rod. Of course, you got great little headlights that pop out. It looks like a smiling face right there. Naturally simplistic type mirrors, alloy wheels, sunroof, so it's almost luxurious. Yes, you got this great little sporty overhang here because this is the hatchback version of the Mazda 3, like we see right there, the 2.5. Now, of course, this one here, 1 pipe and 2 pipes, as you notice, so it has a sporty stance to it. Yeah, you have the flared hips here, nice little simple handles that don't break, and a great interior that's also hitting above its weight class. Now, as I mentioned, this is the older variation, but the brand new model for 2023 starts around $23,000. The older version had a base engine of a 2-liter 4-cylinder, made 153 horsepower, but the current generation now is a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder naturally aspirated, makes 191 horsepower. You can also get a 6-speed auto or a 6-speed manual gearbox, which is hugely important because there's not too many cars anymore that you can get a manual in. So this clearly satisfies some of the driving enthusiast type of vehicle. Obviously, Mazda has that driver in mind. Yeah, you get 4-wheel disc brakes, roadside assistance, you get dual airbags across the sides, as well as lane keep assist. So much technology wrapped up in these modern day Mazda 3s. Of course, it also gets great fuel economy too. Just sipping on the fuel, getting about 26 to 35 miles per gallon, depending if you're driving a city or the highway, makes it easy to live with. You're not stopping at every gas station. Get maximum fuel economy, maximum reliability, fun to drive, and the value is high and the cost is low. The Mazda 3, clearly one you want to get your hands on. Now, the next one on the list is this hot rod right here. here, and I have to say, this is the biggest bang for buck, the best value that you can find for about 25 grand. Yeah, I'm stretching it a little bit. This one goes for base price of about $25,395 or thereabouts, plus fees and taxes. But basically, for around 25 grand, you can get what is the biggest bang, as I said, for your buck. But let's talk about some of the specifications, some of the benefits you get from this vehicle.
Of course, this here obviously is a bigger brother Toyota Camry. Yes, it is. In fact, these are great. Yeah, they have the big bulky front ends. They're wide, they're large, they feel very spacious inside. 2 in the front, 3 in the back, large trunk space, and a stylish looking vehicle that's second to none. This is similar to the Toyota Avalon or even the Lexus ES.
That big grille, not everybody loves, but there it is.
This is the sport variant. Of course, you could tell by the grille because the luxury variations, actually have more of that horizontal slot, but this is the S version, and where it starts, a gorgeous looking vehicle. Beautiful wheels, they're laser cut. Wonderful mirrors, of course, slight LED on there, and you do get a sunroof, so it's borderline luxury vehicle here. Yeah, you have nice trim, chrome around the rim, beautiful little wing on the back, little vents right there, more little detail on the back, on the bottom diffuser right here. Of course, you got a set of dual pipes on there. This is the SE model.
This has its share of technology, and safety features abound.
On top of that, this car at the base format like this gets a front wheel drive drivetrain, naturally aspirated 2.5 liter 4-cylinder under that hood, and it's clapped up to an 8-speed automatic transmission, which is very reliable.
And given the trend for a lot of manufacturers to start putting in those slushy elastic band type transmissions called the CVT, this is a breath of fresh air, of course, getting a good old-fashioned torque converter transmission. It does happen to make 203 horsepower, puts it well above the rest on my list, but there's a lot of safety features and other tech that goes with this. For example, you get lane keep assist, dual airbags in the rear. We talk all the plugins that you can ask for.
You get the Android Auto as well as the Apple CarPlay, USB plugins, pre-collision warning system, and so much more tucked under that skin.
Also in this base format, you can get anywhere from 28 in the city to 39 miles per gallon on the highway. Makes it an absolute easy car to live with for the long haul. 500,000 miles on this with minimal muss and no fuss, and probably never have to do any major repairs.
Now, with a lot of them being hybrid, a lot of them being CVTs, and most importantly, even manufacturers like Mercedes-Benz are going almost turbocharged 2-liter for everything. Even their AMG cars. Why do you think a lot of customers are walking away from the brand? Because they don't want that type of drivetrain. Where are all the good engines? Well, guess what? I've got a list of
reliable European vehicles. Obviously, we have some BMWs are coming up the rear. They're getting better in recent years. And Volkswagen brand has some ins and outs. Some of their old TDI fuel-injected diesel engines were great, but we can't forget about the Dieselgate scandal.
They do provide a lot of great vehicles nowadays. With Audi and Volkswagen being all part of the same family, we can also talk about vehicles from Alfa Romeo, like
the Stelvio here, are a lot of fun. They make great sounds and they're fun to drive. The same goes for Fiat, another Italian brand. They are fun and they have a lot of personality. Other vehicles, for example,
BMWs with some of the Turbo 6s are great.
But basically, I'd suggest staying away from the V8 engines, older or newer. The N63 engine, it's gotten better in later revisions, but it still has a lot of technology, high performance, and it's fun, but it's not necessarily most reliable. So let's cut right to the chase and get right to some of the most reliable European vehicles available. Parked right behind me here. Yes, I never thought I'd ever say this. A British car that's reliable? Yes, and there's many happy customers that have logged thousands and thousands of miles, but let's get into the details and we'll talk about it.
Beautiful Jaguar, as you see before us, a full-size sports sedan, chocked full of amenities. As a matter of fact, it has featured even better than many BMWs and Audis in its class.
Beautiful, you've got LED tail lights on this beautiful Jaguar, and what we have is the S version with the all-wheel drive. Yes, all wheels can chomp at the pavement. This is great for summer and winter. Here we have one tailpipe and two right there. Of course, a set of chrome dual pipes on that makes it look extra sporty. The Jaguar XE has done some great things. Beautiful wheels. I love these high gloss, piano gloss black wheels. And as you can see, you've got red calipers tucked in behind there as well. This is a great way to get into a luxury European vehicle without breaking the bank. Because A, it's relatively affordable to buy new, and B, it's relatively reliable. Yes, there's actually customers that have logged 150,000 miles plus. I've even heard of a couple that have made over 200,000 miles with their Jaguar XE.
But look at some of the elements.
Beautiful Jaguar detail on the side fender there. Of course, we have this high piano gloss black finishing with LED strips. Beautiful auto fold away here. Pretty standard looking headlight arrangement on this S. And of course, you'll see the beautiful little kitty cat right there purring away.
Look on the top, as is in a lot of European luxury vehicles, you're getting full glass tops. So it makes it much more luxurious and more open and spacious in the cabin when you have all that light blasting down in there. How's the interior?
Absolutely gorgeous. Maybe not quite up to par with Audis and BMWs in terms of overall fit and finish, but it's solid. You have some great features like that pop-up automatic transmission controller and more soft close features, as well as beautiful contrast stitching in the leather interior. It also had heads-up display. And for people who like variety, you can get a variety of different engines. You could actually get a diesel engine in this. You could get the early 2-liter turbo, which was an EcoBoost, and then later they came up with a different alternative, which is another 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine. There was also a 3-liter supercharged V6, which what we have right here, as well as a higher output version of a V8. And I personally had one of these for a long-term loaner as an extended review, and it didn't miss a beat. There are a few issues, however, just to be aware of. The infotainment system in there is virtually junk, and it's slow, lurchy, and it's clearly not up to modern day standards. There was also a few issues with fuel leaks because of the soft hose that goes to the fuel filter. Get that sorted out and you're good to go. Seatbelts also had a recall on them, and as well as the start-stop system is a little glitchy. I personally own an F-Type Jaguar myself, and the start-stop system is truly glitchy. I believe it's a Jaguar thing. Mine sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. It seems to be when the weather cools off a little bit, it never seems to satisfy all the conditions that you need to meet for the system to properly operate. It's very glitchy, but either way, who wants the start-stop system? Keep that vehicle running. There's also issues with defrosting, and sometimes the windows get misted up a little easier than they possibly should. But get around some of these oddities and obscurities. What you can have here is something that's different, unique. Of course, you've got vendors all over in every major city that can support the servicing of these vehicles. And this is a great way to get into a luxury Euro vehicle that's both reliable, dependable, and can get you a lot of miles. There's no way we're getting through a list like this without mentioning a car like that. And we're talking about one of my all-time favorites, and it's the Porsche 911. What we have here is a GTS Targa, and Porsche has been classic for creating all these subversions on versions. You have Carreras, Carrera S's, Turbos, GTS's, GT3s, and the list goes on. Suffice it to say, even the cheapest, lowest cost of entry, lowest power output car is still going to be a phenomenal machine to drive. Doesn't matter if you're buying a base Carrera or you're buying the new Turbo S. They're all great. And they're all quite reliable. And it's Porsche's not just takes attention to the details on performance, they also come from a racing heritage, so they know that under extreme conditions means that parts have to hold up under those conditions. A lot of the other manufacturers don't build their cars to those levels of tolerance, but Porsche does. I've always liked the Porsche 911 just because they've kept it standard, they've kept it real. You look down all these older Porsches and they all kind of look the same. But here, if there's one thing that's pretty consistent, it's the beautiful headlights you'll find on the 911. And of course, you've got that chin spoiler that is just enough to give you a sharp, moves the air just nicely, and is a very aggressive and appealing look. Beautiful wheels. How about those massive calipers that are tucked under behind those wheels? And as I mentioned, we have the GTS, which of course here we have some beautiful flaring along the sides. And as you notice, you've got this wing that pops up and does its magic. Down at the back, we have a set of twin tailpipes and a little extra detail tucked in behind there for a little extra aero. Newer style handles on these 911s, and even the mirrors don't lack in extra detail. There's very little of low quality on these cars, and there's a substantial reason why these cars cost a significant amount of money. What are the interiors like on these? Well, let's look. Absolutely gorgeous, and they've really tried to keep things consistent from year on year, and it's absolutely stunning. Everything's ergonomically perfect. The quality is second to none. And one thing that's consistent is the engine has always been in the back, the transmission as well, and rear wheels have been predominantly the drive. To get into a base 911 of the current generation, 379 horsepower is what you're looking at. The S gets you up to 443 horsepower, and this GTS gets you all the way up to 473 horsepower. You don't think that's adequate? Porsche always finds ways to put down way more power effectively than most other brands. Many other manufacturers need at least 30, 40, 50% more power just to hold its own with the Porsche 911. These are spectacular. This is a 3-liter twin turbo, by the way, but it's not called a turbo car, and it's all pushed through an 8-speed dual clutch, what they call a PDK transmission in the Porsche world. Yeah, you can upgrade to a manual 6-speed and row your own gears, but that's going to cost you a little extra because you have to ante up to the S or the GTS like we see right here. Next one is what's parked behind us here, and I know BMW's had some struggles along the way, and there have been many efforts to try to improve on durability and reliability, but if I can actually overextend and talk about this specific model with this specific engine, you can actually get a car that may last a significant amount of time, and it's relatively reliable. Let's take a look. What we have here is a beautiful 3 Series BMW. Take a look. Got M badging, beautiful high gloss wheels, LED headlights, and you'll notice that grille. Because it's crosshatch, that means it's got a 6-cylinder engine. Of course, down there you have a very aggressive front spoiler. And look at the rocker panel. It's definitely full of contours and design. Of course, at the back here, you've got an add-on. This has some performance M parts. We have a carbon fiber wing right there. Absolutely beautiful piece right on there. And
Down there, you'll notice we have two exhaust tips. Beautiful. Oversized like that. Gorgeous. Lots of little vents on the rear. And this is the M340. Also equipped with the X-Drive, so it needs its all-wheel drive. Driving all four of these wheels, great for summer or winter. Of course, we have a sunroof on top, not oversized, but a little bigger than most Lexus and Toyota type vehicles or Acura. We have soft touch there. And absolutely gorgeous interior on the latest BMWs. This one here has a nice striking combination of red and black, but you have the latest iDrive system, and quality of fit and finish is better and better wearing than most other brands in a segment. But who's to say this one will last a long time? This has the 8-speed ZF automatic transmission, very robust. Lots of brands are using it. It's ultra reliable. Quick shifting to the driver's response, so it's fun and it's very durable. It takes a beating and keeps on ticking. But more importantly, we're driving it. This is a 3 Series. You can get a 4-cylinder, the B48. You can get the B58, which is the 6-cylinder that you see in here. And you can also get the M variations of this particular car. This is the one you want. It's the B58. It's the 3-liter turbocharged 6-cylinder engine. Now, what makes it so good? The original N54 was their twin turbocharged 6-cylinder. That was brutal. I had one in my 335i, and I learned the hard way from fuel injector issues, high pressure fuel pumps, leaks from radiators and thermostats and water pumps. It was a disaster. Then came the single turbocharged engine after that, and now we have the B58, which is the latest and greatest. And they've done lots to make this much more reliable. We have heat encapsulation, so the swings between high and cold are less involved. You've got improved engine structural rigidity, you've got better fuel injection components, and they've even revised some of the gasketing and design around the oil filter housing to hopefully reduce the amount of leaks. There's been lots of improvements throughout, tweaks and tunes to make this engine what it is today, both high performing as well as more durable than anything before it in terms of 6-cylinder engines. And because the 3 Series and 2 Series cars are a little bit more simple, I would suggest these are the cars of choice with the B58, that's the Turbo 6, because they're both simpler and more reliable. And my next favorite luxury car that you can find from Europe is what's parked right behind me here. It's a great car. It's not super expensive, not the most technical version of Audi because we're talking about the 4-ring car right behind me here, but it has lots of amenities. And personally, what attracts me to this car is the styling. I think Audi creates a lot of cars that are very bland and vanilla yogurt. This car here adds a lot of touches to me in terms of a styling perspective that take the standard car and bump it up. For example, an A4 is a little basic looking to me. Here, the A5 just steps up all these styling elements threefold. The beautiful Audi headlights, as you would always expect. Right here, we've got the S-Line version. And if you look, I love that flare up at the front. It kind of flares upwards. It's beautiful. Of course, we have soft touch handles front and back. Here as well, the S-Line, you'll notice we have this great little wing on the back, this high piano gloss black wing up top, and it's a Quattro as that standard feature for the A5. Piano gloss black finishing there, and as well, we have the dual exhaust tips. Look in there. And then, of course, beautiful wheels as you would expect by Audi. Look at all the detail and accent along the side of the car. Of course, down here we have a lot more detail to give a little texturing. And I love that high piano gloss black finishing on that front grille. It's a large grille. What about on top of these cars? Like I said, most of the European cars are coming up with these larger sunroofs, which allow a lot more sunlight into the cabin for all the happy passengers riding along. Versus a lot of the Japanese cars, for example, like Lexus and Acura, have a much smaller sunroof, almost like what you're seeing in the 3 Series BMW, but this is much, much nicer. Even detail right there, that's piano gloss black. What about the interior? No doubt in my mind, Audi has some of the nicest interior finishing in the business. Contrast stitching, nice soft touch plastics, brushed aluminum, and tactile controls. They're practical both summer, winter, and throughout many other poor driving conditions, but this does come standard with a beautiful 7-speed automatic transmission and a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine wrapped under that hood in 2 different states of tune. You can get the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, makes 201 horsepower, or you can get the upgrade, which is 260 horsepower, which is probably the way you want to go. A little extra grunt. And realistically, most of its competitors from both BMW in the B48 makes 255 horsepower, the Alfa Romeo makes like 270 horsepower. You really do pretty much need to get the step-up engine drivetrain in this just to be somewhat competitive. But otherwise, it's a thing of beauty. The Quattro all-wheel drive system, there are a few problems. Just take a note. Not a lot, but it's mostly electrical. One is the infotainment system. Sometimes glitches out, hangs up. That has been a common complaint. I also have a friend that has the passenger airbag sensor within the seat. That has been a glitchy problem, as well as some of the automated stop system actually engages at a very unfortunate time, causing potentially a hazardous condition. That has been an issue. Start, stop as well, problematic. So there realistically have been a few electronic bugs in these cars. Get around that. The drivetrains have been pretty stout, and Audi has come a long ways from some of the cars, but 15 years ago.
And with all of that said, you want a list of the most unreliable vehicles aside from what we're starting to hear in 24 and 25 and 26? Right there. Check out that list. You're going to love it. Hope to steer away from some of those bad actors. Catch you real soon. See you then. Bye-bye.